Morning everyone, and welcome back to the Runpreneur vlog, where we discuss all things entrepreneurship and running. It is a very wet morning, about 6 degrees, so not too cold, but it is raining and progressively getting heavier, so wet running conditions this morning. And it's Wednesday well-being today, where we discuss all things kind of mindset, well-being, mental health, that side of things, personal health as well. And today's topic is a mindset one, and it's the difference between a deadline and a dreadline. So as always, if you like this episode, please give it a like and a subscribe, and let's get started. So, what do I mean by a deadline and a dreadline? Well, I took this, I learned this, I should say, from one of my favourite books, which is called It Doesn't Have to Be Crazy at Work. I can't remember who it's by, but it's based on the Basecamp story. So Basecamp is like a project management related software. I actually use a competitor product, Asana. However, it's kind of run by these cool kind of hippie style people, and super successful, but the morals and their values and the company culture is immense, and I love what they stand for. And this is one of the little take homes that I got from many from that book, so recommend you check it out if you haven't done so. But the difference between deadline and dreadline, quite often I think the issue here is that people set deadlines for the sake of setting a deadline. Now, I've got a different kind of take on this to a degree. Morning. Oh, dogs are running past dogs in case I get savaged. But yeah, I've got a slightly different take on this, because some people say, oh, don't set a deadline if there's no need, but I believe that pretty much every task needs a deadline of some kind. Now, there's difference between fixed deadlines and kind of markers to kind of review and see where we're up to type of thing. And I think that's where people get wrong. People often put a deadline, they don't communicate things effectively, and that deadline can quickly turn into a dreadline. So what I mean is the difference between the two is the deadline is a point in time that you're working towards. That's ultimately the definition of a deadline. Is what time, when does a piece of work or something need to be completed by or actioned by. That's generally what people refer to as a deadline. But if you're too aggressive with your deadlines and you don't communicate the urgency of that deadline, then it becomes a dreadline. And the reason it becomes a dreadline, if you set a deadline that's just too aggressive or too unrealistic, then it demoralises everybody who's working towards it. Okay, and people don't realise that. People think, oh yeah, deadlines are really motivating. Realistic deadlines, yes, but dreadlines, where you've got to get this done by this date, when people are pulling all-nighters and working all hours God sends to get it over the line, is demoralising to your team. And I strongly recommend you kind of avoid that. Now, deadlines, when used correctly and communicated correctly, is motivating, because it's the point in time where hopefully something's accomplished that everybody's been part of, or whoever's involved has been part of it. And the more stuff you kind of achieve, the more motivating and inspiring that becomes to continue on the journey. So if I was going to summarise this part just so far, is understand that you give a deadline, you need to put some kind of clarity around that deadline, the urgency of that deadline. Just look up there, there's a hawk or something hovering, beautiful. Anyway, I digress. So understand you've got to communicate the urgency. So what do I mean by that is that some deadlines are urgent. You know what, sorry guys, this is a super urgent, we've got to hit this point, we've got to deliver on this, or otherwise X will happen. So there's a consequence of missing this deadline. But if it doesn't have a consequence, then just say, look guys, right, this is the deadline, but we're just going to review where we're up to this time. If we miss it, it's not the end of the world, okay? So just understand that, so don't kill yourself doing it. Morning. And I think that's really, really important. Just by that little clarification of the urgency levels on the two different types of deadline. Because if you delegate something to somebody else, then inevitably They just see the date that it's due. They don't know the kind of basis that deadline's, based upon. And that's, I think, really important that you communicate. Communicate the urgency of a deadline and the importance of a deadline is the most important thing when you're giving deadlines. Now, on the flip side, if you go polar opposite and think, well, that's not really, there's nothing that's set in stone for a deadline for that, we'll just leave that as blank. Well, that has the complete polar opposite effect. And then people take it too easily and they perhaps put it to the back of the queue, they don't do the work, and ultimately it never gets accomplished, or it just keeps getting knocked back down the street. And that's what you want to avoid as well. So deadlines are super important for progression, but you need to be realistic and clear and concise on the urgency and the importance of every deadline. If you're not, you'll demoralise your staff if you put a deadline that's too soon. Because just an example, I have regular weekly meetings with different teams, project teams that I'm working on different things with, and more often than not, any agreed action, I will put the due date as the next meeting. Okay, and that's not because I'm expecting it to be done, because I'm expecting an update on where we're up to. And I explain very clear and concisely at that point, guys, look, this is the urgent one, we need to get this focused on. All the other stuff we're just going to review at the next meeting, okay? If it happens, great. If it doesn't, it's not at the end of the world. But the main aim here is to making progress. Every meeting on the right things. And just that kind of clarity keeps people a bit like, oh, thank God it's not, it's not a crazy deadline or anything. And I think that's really important to keep the team morale high. So I've made this mistake, hugely in the past, of giving everybody crazily unrealistic deadlines in it, and the morale just drops like a stone. And it's hard to build morale in the company. It happens over the course of time if you do the right things. And when you get to the stage where you've got that morale at a really high level, the teamwork is really strong, you need to protect that. And doing silly things like unrealistic dreadlines is a great way to destroy all that hard work and effort you put into increasing the morale in your business. So, this does cover well-being because it's people's mindsets and understanding how that kind of works, how it affects people's well-being. So I hope you found this useful. So if I was to summarise the difference between a deadline and a dreadline, a deadline is a point in time where you're going to review or complete a designated action or task. A dreadline is a deadline set with unrealistic expectations, and if you get that expectation level wrong, it's demoralising for your team. If you're struggling with setting realistic deadlines, ask the people who are doing the work, guys, when do you think we can get this done by? And let them dictate the deadline. If they've dictated that, they're holding themselves accountable almost, but they're setting something that they believe to be realistic with their workload. But always clarify things as well with them, because you do get people that aim to please, and sometimes people will give an unrealistic deadline for themselves. So just dive a bit deeper and go, look guys, you sure you can deliver in that time frame? That looks a bit tight with all the work you've got going on. Do you want to knock it about just a week just to be on the safe side? And just kind of work with your team on that basis, and they'll feel hugely supported by it, which is really, really important. So supporting your team is massive. So that's pretty much it for me today. Hopefully that's been a useful topic today. As always, if you've got any comments on this stuff, drop me a comment and I'll respond to everyone. If it's a bigger question, I'll do a separate vlog episode and tag you in. If this is relevant to you, no drama, just unfollow and it will stop cluttering up your social feeds with irrelevant content. But there's no need to unfriend me, because if you just unfollow, it should stop your feed getting cluttered. But what I would say before you do that is check out the Runpreneur YouTube channel, whereby I do a different topic on each day of the week. So just because today's topic might not be relevant, there could be other days of the week that's super relevant to you. So do check that out, and they're all synced and neatly catalogued by playlist, so it should be easy to find relevant stuff for you. Check out the Facebook Runpreneur community group as well, whereby I host the free resources that accompany this vlog, and the first one being my 70-step process to content repurposing, reformatting and optimization, uniquely across all platforms. So if you want to put unique content across all platforms and you want a process to do that where it doesn't take over your life, check out that checklist. Hopefully you'll find it super useful. So all that's left to say is that the Runpreneur vlog was set up to help entrepreneurs and business owners overcome the emotions of stress, which can grow to overwhelm, which if not managed can turn into anxiety, where kind of mental health challenges start coming into play. And it's by managing these by using a release mechanism or release valve, and in my case exercise, or specifically running, how you can kind of help get clarity and focus, keep control, and then thrive under these emotions that every single entrepreneur and business owner experiences. The ones that do it well will thrive, will keep clarity, will keep control, keep focus, they'll manage the emotions well, and they'll move on to bigger and better things. The ones that don't, bottle it all up, and the ones that bottle it all up, sorry, I've just got will be the ones that ultimately the pressure builds and builds and builds like pressure in a pipe, and when it gets to that stage something breaks, and unfortunately that's usually the entrepreneur or the business, and in both cases is usually terminal to the likelihood of that business lasting a test of time. So I've been there. Now I've lost multiple businesses because of my inability to manage these emotions, and I've lost multiple business partners because of this as well, all of which are pretty horrendous situations to find yourself in. And I've also almost been bankrupt because of it as well. So I've got quite a lot of experience in this now, and it's only really now that I've finally got this kind of routine in my life where I'm using exercise when running so powerfully to gain clarity and focus and thrive. And the proof is that I'm, in the last 6 months, I've made more progress than I've done in the last 3 years, and that's since I've been doing this vlog. So I do know a bit of this stuff, and my pledge to you is that if you are an entrepreneur struggling with this, just drop me a message, okay? We'll jump on a call. There's absolutely no catch here. I'm not selling anything, no nothing. There's no obligation, no nothing here. All I want to do is try and help you, because I know how bad it is for entrepreneurs that get to that stage. And I always said, if I can give you a few little tips and a bit of advice that gets you back on the right path, then this vlog has been 1,000,000% worthwhile. Sorry, it's super windy now. Sorry if there's a lot of wind resistance. But so yeah, so that's it for me today. As always, if you like this episode, please give it a like, a comment and a subscribe. If you want to watch similar content, please check out the playlist link on the YouTube channel. And I'll leave you with, as always, stay positive, stay happy, and I'll see you tomorrow.